A BB4 and straight black pride brothers and sisters. This is your brother DC Radical 1 with episode 7 of DC's Radical Thoughts. And today a question came to my mind as I was watching a video, a DVD that I've had for years now, which featured Baba Kamau of Nation House, who wrote, of course, the book Nation Building that I'm currently reading, and Baba Walimu Baruti, who wrote the book Identity, which I'm currently reading. And I nearly forgot that I actually had this presentation which featured both of them when Baba was here in the physical. And of course, he has now transitioned to the ancestral realm. And so it was interesting to look at it and to just listen to his words and, seeing him and Baba Baruti together and really relearning what was stated. I've seen the video before, but being honest, I haven't watched it in years. And as I'm sitting there watching it and I'm listening, literally out of a thought just appeared in my mind, a question really, and that question is, what does victory look like to the warrior? And I'm not even sure what sparked it, but as I thought about it, I began to contemplate it. I realized that from an individual perspective, I've never considered it. I've never considered that question until watching that video. And so I began to ponder, and I thought, well, if I've never considered it, it's impossible that other brothers have never considered it. What does victory look like to the warrior? So as I pondered it, I began to think about Baba and his accomplishments, and the fact that he's not here, he's going on to the ancestral realm. And then I started thinking about Baba Kambon. In fact, he's gone on to the ancestral realm, and we've lost a lot of people with him. I begin to look at their life, and I'm like, but I consider them victorious as warriors. And what I'm saying is, I'm measuring it not from the perspective of the black collective or the black nation or the global African community achieving victory. I'm saying within the realm of the personal sacrifice and the journey that an individual African chooses to engage in, to make war against our enemies, make war against their systems, make war against oppression and degradation and psychological and physical destruction of black people. What does victory look like from an individual basis for the warrior? And so I decided that using Baba Kamau Kambon as a measuring stick is the proper measurement. The simple fact of the matter is, we all come here through a woman, and we're all going to leave here in the ground. These are just the facts. And so the measurement of victory is in between these 2 points of time, right? No matter how long you have. And so from my perspective, when I looked at it and then I examined it, these are general parameters that I would say are victory for the warrior. And this is in no particular order. First and foremost, victory for the warrior, for an African warrior, would be forming a complementary relationship with an African of the opposite gender, i.e., an African man who finds an African woman to be his complement in the journey of life and to help him grow and develop as he helps her grow and develop, and they come together and hopefully produce children and have a family. That in and of itself is a victory for the African warrior, for a black man who is fighting for liberation, freedom, justice, and equality, if you will, for sovereignty, for eventual African dominion, right? Which is the long-term national goal. Not just freedom and independence, as we've said for a long time, but not just sovereignty, but the ultimate goal, considering the nature of our enemies, is global African dominion, right? That is the ultimate collective victory from my perspective. But from an individual perspective, again, what does victory look like for the warrior? Being able to find an African complement for those who are African, just like foundationally, if someone is, say, a Muslim man finding a Muslim woman to marry and make her his wife is a victory. A Christian man and Christian woman, and so forth and so on. So for us, for those who are aligned culturally, an African man finding an African woman is a victory. Those two people coming together to produce African children who are of sane African mind, who are not confused about their gender, are not confused about their race, are not confused about their purpose in the world, who pick up the mantle that their parents have laid down and will continue to work, even if it's in their own way. They don't have to continue to do what you do. For example, a brother may be, let's just say that a brother is a teacher and he teaches the people, and the sister, she is a writer, right? And they have a child, and he's neither a teacher nor a writer, but he's a musician, and he uses his musical ability to compose songs of liberation and resistance and eventual dominion for black people. And he motivates black people through his music, and he makes black love songs, right, as well. Well, that's a victory for that couple and a victory for that family, because you now have three people who are using their individual talents in order to push forward the goal of liberation and eventual dominion, right? So that's just an example of what would be victory for the warrior. Being completely honest, the life of Baba Kamau Kambon is the clearest current or recent example of what victory looks like. Baba and Mama Kambon, they came together. Baba Kambon used to always talk about building his house himself with his wife, and them having their children, and their children being African. They educated them to be African, and they're being African, and his son goes to Ghana, marries an African woman, begins to build an institution there. Eventually, the daughter, she goes to Africa, and helps with that institution. And so that's a victory. He decided to become an African. He built a family. His children are African. His son has children. So he had grandchildren. His grandchildren are African, and they're continuing the work and the legacy that he laid down. And that is realistically, in this day and time, from my perspective, the highest level of victory that an individual African can achieve. What is another way that the warrior can achieve victory? The building of institutions that outlast you. One of the hardest things to do in this day and time, and one of the hardest things to do amongst black people, is build an institution that outlives us. If you can build a family and have your children carry on a legacy, and build an institution and have your children or those close to you in your inner circle, or children that you raised up, let's say you have a school and you raised up children in that school, and the children eventually help to continue that school, that's an ultimate victory. That's a humongous victory, because in today's day and time, it is extremely difficult to get institutions to outlast the founders and for them to continue to work in the spirit of which the institution was created. That is a major victory. Baba IJ, they founded Nation House. I'm not even sure what year, but Nation House still exists in Washington, D.C. And so by founding an educational institution and have that educational institution continue forward, even though Baba IJ is not physically here, he achieved a tremendous victory. If you can take those two things and build an African family and build an African institution, you have done a tremendous amount of work and have achieved a tremendous goal. What is another aspect of victory that the warrior can achieve? One of the ways that you can achieve victory is by affecting generations of people who weren't even around when you're around. This is like Marcus Garvey, who now that I think about it, built an institution that still in some form survives. Produced a family where some of the people are carrying on his beliefs and his legacy, and he affected the lives of people who were not even thought about when he was doing his work. So, Marcus Garvey achieved a tremendous victory as people still carry on his legacy, people carry on his ideology, people carry on his philosophy in different ways, even though he hasn't been here physically for decades. But nonetheless, the spirit of Marcus Garvey still exists. And so when I think about it, now that I've thought about it, Marcus Garvey achieved a tremendous victory, even though it appeared to our enemies that he was defeated. But far from it. In a very real way, Marcus Garvey helped give birth to Malcolm X, right? Because for those that know, Malcolm X's mother and father were Garveyites. The seeds of that were planted in his mind and eventually germinated, not just in while he was in the Nation of Islam, but his post-Nation of Islam life, which was cut short, but he was just rediscovering African nationalism at that time. So Marcus Garvey's ability to affect generations after him through his work is a tremendous victory for a warrior. So these are just some of the ways. Someone like Amos Wilson in a short span of time produced tremendous work, tremendous intellectual capital, tremendous analysis of our situation. And so even though he's not here, there are people who to this day study his work and really trying to catch up to where he was 30 years ago, because he was so advanced. And realistically, he wasn't appreciated in his time. Being honest, I think he was so far above people's heads that they didn't even get it. They couldn't even really comprehend fully what he was putting on the table until you like reread it several times over. I remember at that time, years ago, it seemed like the 80s, when Amos Wilson was talking about the rise of the I believe he may have used the word Oriental or Eastern nations or whatever it was. Now, of course, we saw that China became the manufacturing center of the world long after he had made that statement. And so his ability to shape the minds of people that may not even have been alive when he put down his writings and did some of his lectures and things like that, that is a tremendous victory. To have people go back and look to you as a source of inspiration and as a source of enlightenment and as a source of information, even though the information you put out, decades before they even discovered it. That is a tremendous victory for the warrior. So it just goes to show that there are times when, if we're being completely honest, the fruits of one's labor may be seen, but there's also times that the fruits of one's labor may not be seen, and the effect of one's work may not be appreciated until after you're gone. But that is a reason to continue to work, and it's a reason to not just lose faith if you're not making progress, or to basically to give up on our people and give up on your work. If you're writing, if you're organizing, if you're teaching, you're training, if you are whatever way you are contributing to liberation, sovereignty, and eventual global African dominion, is good to understand what victory looks like to the warrior. Because if you're alive now at this time, the chances of you getting to see our ultimate victory, our ultimate liberation, our ultimate setting up of a global African government to dominate the world and make it safe for our children and our women, and for us to regain our sanity, and for us not to sit around worshiping at the altar of whiteness, and not sit around and pray to non-black gods, and not sit around and to be speaking foreign languages as our primary language, to not sit around and be have captured nations, like the black nation here in America is a captured nations, and the black people in Brazil are captured nations for those things, for our current condition to be turned over, and for the resources of Africa to be used for African people, and for black people to be at the forefront, African people to be at the forefront of having advanced military technology that allows us to defend ourselves from any and all threats. The chances of living to see that day, if you're alive now listening to this, are slim. But that doesn't mean that you cannot achieve victory in your life today. Victories that you live to see today. And to be honest, sometimes we have to celebrate the small victories that a warrior can achieve. If you set up an event, the event goes well. Let's say you invite a speaker, and the event goes off without a hitch. You have the venue, the speaker comes through, they do what they normally do, you have a good turnout, they make money, you make money, they sell products and get notoriety, the people enjoy themselves, everyone is safe at the event is secure, everyone gets home safe. That's a victory. That's a victory. It's a victory because in your mind you set out a goal and you set about accomplishing something, and then you went and put in the work to accomplish it, and then what you set out to do was accomplished. That is very much a victory. And so as I pondered this question and it came to my mind, I had to really sit around and think, what does victory look like to the warrior? And so if there's any other brothers and sisters out here who were wondering that question, maybe you're looking at the condition of our people, maybe you're looking at the condition of the world, maybe on a personal level you haven't reached or achieved the goals that you set forth, whatever those goals may be. I just wanted to say that even if that is the case, even if that is the circumstance, victory is achievable. Victory can be manifest if one puts in the work, and if you really have enough self-belief and put forth maximum effort, a victory can be achieved. Anything worthwhile is just not easy. Anything worthwhile is going to be difficult, and the reality situation is, for those who would be African, or those who would be warriors, or those who would resist, Dr. Collins say resist so that we can exist, those who would stand against the destruction of black people, those who would stand against the desecration and defamation of black people, the disparaging of our character, and the character assassination, and the physical abuse and physical destruction, and all of the things that we go through as black people, not just here in America, but black people in Brazil, and black people in the Caribbean, and black people on the continent, because there are black people getting killed on the continent for being black, right? Black people in South Africa still getting abused even after apartheid. Black people in various places, all over the continent. Every time you look up, there's some European somewhere or some Asian somewhere doing something wrong, brutalizing black people on the continent. And so we just have to understand that there's going to be trials and tribulations and difficulties and struggle and hurt and pain and tears and joy and all these things in the journey of life to maximize our warriorhood and hopefully achieve ancestorship. But with all of that being said, there is a chance of victory, and victory can be achieved in this lifetime. So, brothers and sisters, from my perspective, these are some of the ways that victory looks like to an African. So, with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and give me feedback if you are enjoying this series. And if you're not enjoying this series, you want me to end it, you can leave that feedback too. I'll take that into consideration. Again, I am DC Radical 1, and this has been episode 7 of DC's Radical Thoughts. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $DCRadical1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A beat for ODA and straight black pride.